Well, hello MouseWorks fans, and welcome to another edition of MouseWorks Model News. Excuse my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I thought I'd throw a video together as best I can, keep you guys informed of what's going on. Starting off with the news, the IPMS Nationals is over with by the time you watch this. It was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and from what I've heard, it was a pretty successful show. They did have the show without a banquet, which was kind of interesting. Some people upset, some people not, so I'm not sure what they're going to do about some of the other venues. The next one will be in Texas in 2020, and then they announced at the Nationals that the next one after that, 2021, will be in Las Vegas, which will be a lot of neat potential for the number 21. So you'll see a lot of special categories, I'm sure, for like MiG-21s or, 21-year-old this or that or whatever. So that'll be kind of interesting. One of the things I wanted to talk about was something I found out kind of interesting the other day, and it is regarding this, which is the Tamiya extra thin cement. For those of you who know, this some of the Tamiya paints and this cement have been in and out of production, or I shouldn't say production, I should say in and out of distribution in the United States, ongoing for a while. Sometimes there'll be long periods where you can't get the stuff, and a lot of it has to do with the relabeling for the safety issues and putting the little flammable warnings and so forth on them, which can get pretty wordy, so they're trying to fit it all on there and make it so they can still at least put their name on it. But one thing that is interesting is there was a dry spell there for a few months on the glue again in the paint. I did find out the paints came through. Unfortunately, I don't have a example of it, but what they did was they actually have a sticker on the top now, because they can't fit anything on the side, that says that these paints contain carbon black, and is a chemical known to cause cancer in the state of California. It's kind of a bummer that they keep doing that to these companies to make them have all this nomenclature on there. But the interesting thing about the glue was they finally released it and saw a couple bottles of it. And what's interesting, unfortunately I don't have one here, but the bottles came through with a piece of, the change was a piece of black tape, and it was a very thick tape. It was made so you couldn't see anything through it, but it was a black band, about 1/4-inch tape coming across this side of the bottle, and there wasn't anything extra. There was just that black piece of tape, and obviously put on by the Tamiya USA or whatever. But what it covers up, if you look at these ones, it covers up the warning about birth defects in California, and this containing chemicals to that. So I'm not sure. I've been trying to research it, and nobody wants to talk about it at Tamiya. But I'm kind of curious if they actually dropped the requirement for that, whether they found out that these certain chemicals don't cause birth defects in the state of California or what, but they actually censored it, and as Nixon said, expletive deleted. So anyways, if you know anything about that, just please give me a note down below. Just kind of interesting, it went the other way and covered up information instead of adding information. So something kind of interesting there. So that's about it for the news. I'm actually going to add a little section to the news now called the commentary. I don't want to get to the point where these are inflame the public, but I just would like to get some conversation going and some information on this website or a YouTube page of what you guys think. The first thing is, a lot of you who know me know I've been a critic of one of the categories at the National IPMS contests. The category is in flight. Now, I really enjoyed this category because I took first place the first couple years, so of course I enjoyed it. But I like the idea of having aircraft in flight, which is what they're built, what real aircraft are built for. So it's neat to actually put one on a stand and make it look like it's flying. Now, this gives rise to a bunch of problems for the modeler. Mainly, you have to put the gear up and close the doors, if it has doors. And that, a lot of people who think that having no landing gear is a cheat because you can't get judged on the landing gear. Well, it's actually harder to, on most models, to actually fit the landing gear doors in the bay and close them and make them look good. That is actually very difficult, more difficult than trying to get the landing gear correct. So it is not a cheat, it is actually something that is very difficult. Much less the idea of putting it on a stand, balancing it on the stand, making it so it's sturdy, solid, and that the stand doesn't detract from the model itself. There's a lot of effort to put an aircraft in flight. I always went with the spirit of in flight of what a real aircraft is, because I really like that idea. But there was a loophole that I didn't really figure out until some of the contests came up, and some of the aircraft, I know the smaller aircraft, you can't see the pilots, or it's very hard to find a pilot. So the smaller scales, if they did not have a pilot, like if it was a bomber or something like that, I would almost understand not having a pilot. But one of the rules is that the pilot is optional. Now, to me, in flight means it is depicting the aircraft physically in flight, which means that there is, besides drones and so forth, there is a physical pilot controlling the vehicle, and there should be a representation of that pilot in the aircraft. Now, I know it is kind of hard on certain aircraft and certain scales to get figures for it, and much less trying to make them fit, which is kind of difficult. But this is national level, and this is where the challenge comes in, and I believe it is a good challenge to make the modelers try to get a pilot to fit and look good and model it well. Well, the problem with all this is the rules say that the pilot is optional, and I always assumed that just meant that if you had a pilot, the judges would judge you with better criteria and give you credit towards that. Well, that's not the case. It is optional, which means that you get no credit whether you have a pilot or not. Now, this really looks funny when you have a 32nd scale aircraft where you can clearly see inside the cockpit of the aircraft and there's just a seat and no pilot. This is actually basically a gate guard or a plane on a stick. Now, if that's what they want and think that's okay, they should have called the category gate guards or planes on a stick. They should not have said in flight. I know that, like I said, it's very difficult to find a pilot and do all that and blah, blah, blah. But my argument is there should be a rule that you have to have a representation of a pilot, with the caveat that if it's below a certain scale, like 1/144th, you don't. That wouldn't be too hard to put in the rules. I think it would be more into the spirit of in-flight aircraft. Quite a few other people feel this way. I did bring it up to IPMS Nationals and got shut down on it. Unfortunately, that's just the way they feel. I would like to know what you people feel. I would like to get that rule changed, just because, like I said, it looks pretty odd to have an aircraft with nobody in it as in flight. So the other part of it would be nice is if they let you have semi-retracted gear, so it would represent the gear in retraction and would still not be in the diorama section. Now, some people argue that having a pilot puts it in the diorama section. No, I believe the pilot is a representation of an aircraft in flight. It does not tell a story because he has to be there. So, say an aircraft where a guy's bailing out, or an aircraft that is shot up and flaming, that is a diorama because that tells a story. But having a pilot in it doesn't tell a story. It just means a pilot is piloting the aircraft. So if you put a pilot in it and became diorama, and you put it in diorama category, you're going to lose because it doesn't tell a story. So anyways, I'd like to hear your comments on that. You know, my point of view of it, I'd like to see them change it. It's not a big deal, but some people just resist change. So that would be the first part of the commentary. The second part, I would also like to see IPMS Nationals adopt a new category for what I would like to call enviroramas. Now, when I worked at the Denver Museum of Natural History, we actually built one-to-one scale sets, if you would, for the Prehistoric Journeys exhibit, which had all kinds of critters in forest scenes and other scenes. That was, the envirorama was the scene where all the trees and everything were. A lot of people in Europe, and this is a trend, and I think they should pick this up in IPMS USA, is people are building models of just the facades of buildings, or just a corner shot of a street scene like a back alley or something, and where it has no people, no real story, but it's just well done, looks very realistic, like a rundown building. For example, I'm sure you've seen quite a few of these. Some good examples are in the new issue of AK Damaged, the one with the Batmobile on it. There's a couple of enviroramas in there. One with a telephone booth. There's some AK and some other brands of magazines and books that just show like a rusted bicycle laying in a bunch of weeds. Now, this is not a diorama. These are not telling stories, but it is the talent of the modeler to use his artistic ability to balance the scene and make it the mood of the scene without using blown up buildings for World War II or whatever. No people, no cars, just a scene out of daily life. There are some very nice things coming out of Europe where they actually use a frame and they'll just do an old building, say in downtown Paris or something, and they'll show off the window with old shutters and things like that, and the masonry and everything, and it's really well done. I mean, it looks realistic. I think this could warrant its own category. If somebody puts something in there like it now, they get put in the category 800, which is basically all others and miscellaneous, and that's just a mishmash everything. So that's not really fair to the artist and the modeler, I don't think, to actually just throw them in there. Anyways, that's again a commentary of what I think. I'd like to know what you think. Send me some examples of what you've seen or what you've done. A lot of the people that I've shown these to, they're really fascinated by this idea. Some of them include lighting, which it does not make it a diorama, but just it doesn't have the human element to it or the story element of action scene. So anyways, that is the commentary. If you don't like commentary like this, let me know as well. So I'm always changing this channel to fit what you want to see. So that's it, and next up is going to be future kit releases. Thanks for listening. Hello again, Mouseworks fans. It's time for future kit releases, so I'll put on my glasses so I can read the small print I've got here. Looks like this is going to be a short one. The first one up is, I've announced this before, Trumpeter is coming out with a 1/35th scale MAZ, scud launcher type MAZ firefighting vehicle for airports. There was controversy. They said it was going to be the round tanked version with the big cannon on the front, and then they came out with a CAD drawing of a square tanked version, which was very uninteresting looking to most people. Well, they just finally came out with a color painting or artwork of the box, and it actually has the round tank one that's fully red and then has the big cannon on the end. So I'm glad they actually went with the round one because it's a lot more interesting. Next up, Trumpeter is also coming out with a 1/32nd scale P40N. This was available from Hasegawa before, but it's hard to get some of their P40 special versions. So this will be a nice one for them to release. It also has Russian markings in it as well. Next up, AFV Club is coming out with a Republic of Korea TIFV, a wheeled vehicle. Looks like it's in the Berlin block scheme. This will be actually kind of interesting, something a little bit different for most modelers. Next is Mini Art is coming out with a tree bugle, which I've talked about before. They're doing a second version of it, which actually has the Night Fighter version of it. I finally got some artwork, so I'll put that up and show you what that looks like. Unfortunately, it's been kind of light on the releases. I did not get out to the nationals, otherwise I'd probably have a bigger list, find out what's going on. There's some new decals coming from Phantom, Fanatics, and some in 32nd scale, and a few other companies rising up, so I'll have more information on that soon. So that's it for future kit releases, and now next is new kit review. Alright, MouseWorks fans, this new kit review I've talked about in the past issues of the video magazine. This is something I've got out of Japan and had to wait, or China, I'm sorry. I had to wait for it for a little while because I missed the first run. So anyways, this is the Academy Models, United States Marine Corps AH-1Z Super, or Specialty Cobra. With shark mouth, and there is the side of the box there. It says it has cartograph decals in it, which is awesome. The length and the width of the chopper. Some pictures of it built up, which is nice. A lot of companies don't do built up pictures, they just show paintings. There's a couple on the side there, and then it's got a paint index on the box, which is nice, which probably means it's not on the instructions, but we'll find out. And the regular information there. So let's take a look and see what's inside. This is a long-awaited kit, and is pretty exciting. Alrighty, reviewing the Academy 35th scale Cobra, Super Cobra. First up, they have this little thing here, so check the parts list before unsealing. The bags, of course, what they mean. Replaced and returned, not guaranteed when plastic is unsealed. So not sure what that's about, but next up is the glass. Don't want to take it out of the package here because it's going to get scratched, unfortunately, and this is very clear glass here. It does give you the little tram ball, or whatever you want to call it there, in clear and in solid plastic, and then the upper window there. Looks really clear, really sharp, has some window molding on it, so it should be good to go without getting any glue on it and fogging it. Okay, next up is going to be Sprue A, and they have done, which I really appreciate, most model companies are coming around to this, of having the actual letter cut out so you can actually see it much easier, instead of trying to see it when you go through a whole bunch of sprues. So anyways, this is the fuselage. Looks really sharp. Detail is really good, even the little flare dispensers. Lots of rivet detail, really fine, which is what it should be. I mean, it looks really nice, really crisp, really square, not a lot of soft action there. And looks like some miscellaneous parts here. There's a piece here that's a little slide molded. Looking good. Alright. And this is dimensionally molded. You can kind of see here where it's got a slide mold system on it with different levels, so they can actually get in there, and this won't be a separate part. Kind of cool there. Love that slide molding. Great technology. I don't think they've quite mastered every aspect that they can do with it yet. Okay, next one is well, that's interesting. There's no sprue letter on this. Okay, well, there it is, right in the middle. See, okay, that's different. Usually it's on the corner. Anyways, this is a lot of cockpit parts. The cockpit tub over here, and instrument systems, and some of the tail rotors, and some of that tram ball I was talking about. There's a solid one there. Everything's very crisp. We get some slide molding here. Some slide molding here as well to make these pieces hollow, which is really nice. Everything looks real good. So there's some swirl marks in the plastic, so I will probably wash this. Whenever I see swirl marks, it could be just the injection process. It could also be the mold release. So I usually take no chances, and I put the parts in water and liquid soap to clean those off, just to be sure. Next is B, and this actually has some of the rear boom, and these are actually slide molded to be one solid or one hollow piece, but there's no seam line down the middle of them, which is really kind of a cool thing. Started a while back by HK. They did their mosquito in 32nd scale this way, and a lot of people are adopting it. Actually even the little winglets there are actually hollow, so you won't have that seam line and everything will match up. That's very cool. Very neat to see. Lots of detail on the boom here on the bottom, vents and grills and so forth. Looking very awesome. Also, they actually have rivets where it actually is supposed to have rivets instead of just having dimples to represent rivets. They actually have it raised like the real thing is, because this thing was armored like a tank in some places. Okay, next up is this one here, and there's two of these, so I'll just show one. This is sprue D. This one has the main blades. Some of the missile and rocket launchers, the missile AIM-9. Not sure which version of that. It could be an X. It has some of the Hellfire missiles on it there. Those look really good. I mean, really good. Some of the rocket pods, and those also are slide molded. Looking real good. The rocket actual pods, the actual rockets are physically these little cones here, so it's really nice. That is super, super nice. It's a fairly simple kit, which is kind of interesting. It should build up pretty quick. Not a lot of problems with minuscule parts and things like that. Okay, next in the box is the decal set. Again, cartograph. Really sharp looking. Some people have complained about the colors that are called out, that these are too close to that. You're a modeler. Figure it out. You can match it up, do some test sheets on a piece of paper or plastic of your paint, and check it. They are low vis, so they're not supposed to be very visible, but check your references and see how you want to do it. Looks like some screens for the cockpit and a little shark mouth there. Has some masks, which is really cool. You can kind of see that yellow. Those are masks for the canopy, and then some photo etched. And the photo etch is really fine. I mean, it's got grill work on it, and that is really, really fine. So that is nice looking stuff there. Next is the instruction sheet. Black and white. It does have color call-outs on here as well, but they're actual a color thing on the side of the box for extra reference. Nice, they're actually graying out the parts that you're putting in. That way you don't miss anything. Again, I always mark them out as I finish putting the part in, but that's nice because if it's just drawing all the way around and arrows, it gets kind of confusing. So the gray areas are new items added. Gives you the option pieces here. A lot of nomenclature on what goes where and why and when and who. Those look real good. Boom goes on real easy. It saved a lot of parts. Here's the glass pieces, and they're actually telling you how to take off the sprue nibs, which is interesting because some modelers don't know they have to do that, and they try to put it in and it doesn't fit. So this is done for all ages, which is nice. All right, the missiles and rockets are all here. Gives you some different loadouts there, and then attaching those and the main rotor blades. Okay, and there's attaching the main rotor blade set. Now, if I can find it, I actually got, and I probably have it buried somewhere, but I've got the Legend Models resin blade storage set, which actually gives you some resin pieces and some photo etched and some bars basically to actually fold these blades in kind of a double fork system, so you don't have the width of it, which will be nice because this model is going to be pretty big and you need something to make it smaller. So that's Legend models that makes that. Not very expensive. Warnings. And hey, look at that. There is actually a decal placement sheet in color. And that shows all the different small decals. There's a ton of them around there. That's awesome that they show that. And they show it in a drawing so you don't get confused. Looks like some other call outs here. Some colors on the rockets and launchers and missiles, blades. And then it actually has the different markings in color, all the different versions. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 versions that you can do, and then it's got some more decals there. So that is a very nice sheet, and then it shows what parts are used, what parts are not. Of course, all these ones are being used because this is the first time they've done this kit. The masks here, putting them all over there. Very cool. This sheet is worth a lot of effort because this is I mean, it's nice that they did the effort, and very appreciative of from modelers. Wish all the models would do that. So anyways, that is it for the review, and so I will do some close-ups for you so you can see what it looks like, and next up we'll do model techniques. Alright, MouseWorks fans, welcome to another department of the new modeling techniques, or just model building techniques. For this one, it's going to be kind of short. What it is, a lot of people have messed with photo etched, and they've always used just a regular knife or a set of cutters. This is the way I do it, and it actually works pretty well. So what I do is I use this. This is made by X-Acto. This is a really super short curved blade. They're kind of expensive compared to other blades, but you don't go through them very often, so they're very nice to have. But what this does is actually, if I was to be cutting out a part, I would actually slice off an opening. This is a particular trumpeter photo etched, and then that way it's a flap, and this is nice because you can cut it and the flap will keep everything in place. But basically what I do is I use it like a guillotine, and I rock it over the attachment points, and you'll hear it kind of crunch when you hear it go through. This also, I've been using this for years and I've never broken the tip off of it, like if you use a regular hobby blade, you'll lose that tip. So basically you just do that, and then when you're ready you can actually peel back this clear protective film, which I've cut off. There we go. Sometimes it's a little stubborn to get off, but I'd rather have it there than not. So we will pull that back and grab a pair of tweezers here. There we go. Okay, so pull that back because it's ready to be removed. And if you did your cuts right, this piece should pull just out like that. So there you have it. And then you can just actually, you can see there's still some nibs left. Just take that, hold it with the tweezers so it stays flat, and then sand off the nib. You don't want to have too much movement, so this way you don't bend the actual brass. So I want to hold it, for example, like this, and sand that part there. Let the sandpaper do the work, and you'll have it all sanded off in no time. So anyways, that is the modeling techniques using a curved guillotine style blade. Alrighty, welcome to the end of the show, and for this last segment we are doing a new tool, and for this episode I'm going to be showing this, which is actually from a company called Jack Richardson. They're about the only people that make this particular thing, and what it is that it's a porcelain paint well palette. The reason that I'm showing this is there's thousands of palettes out there. Not many of them are ceramic or porcelain. The idea behind the porcelain one is it's awesome because you can actually clean it out and reuse it thousands of times without it staining, warping, or giving you issues. You can also throw this in a ultrasonic cleaner and it'll just shake all those parts off and you wipe them right off. This particular one is their 12 well small system. What it looks like. It comes with a cover, which is kind of cool if you're doing watercolors or oils to keep them from drying. But there it is. You have the 12 wells. This is if you want to basically make washes of different consistencies. Start with the heavy wash, thin it out, or even color mixes. You can do that. And this actually holds a lot. It doesn't look like it does hold a lot, but it does. I've got one of their other units, which is this one. I use this for applying different types of putties and different types of paint, and you see this one is ready for the bath in the ultrasonic cleaner, but this one has the wells and then these little kind of slanted trays there. So anyways, they're really heavy duty. They're not that expensive if you can find the right price. Amazon, I hate to have you go online, but there are not a lot of art shops carry these. Try your art shop first. If not, Amazon does have these, and they vary. They fluctuate all the time on price on Amazon. So anyways, but that is the new tool. They are awesome. You can actually use this to do the same thing as a palette and just cleans it right out. So anyways, that is that, and I would like you guys to subscribe to my channel, and I also have a website which I sell some of these items here. These are some of my Werx modeling tools, my sanding sticks. As always, these are to support the channel so I can keep on doing this. The other thing is I do need to hopefully get a 4K camera. I noticed this the last films I've done, the camera's getting kind of long in the tooth compared to some of the other videos, so it'd be nice to have a 4K camera system to actually do this. Also, it's very difficult. My channel is not sponsored, as you should see. There's no commercials on it, so I always keep that free. Basically, I just don't like advertising for somebody else. They call it monetizing. Used to be you could make some money at it. Now they've made it so impossible to make money at it, it's not worth annoying your viewers. But your hits become really low and your views become really low. So tell your friends, and please, if you like the show, comment on it, subscribe, tell your friends to take a look at it, because I need viewers just to get the word out on all this stuff, and get some sponsors and so forth to do all this kind of stuff, and not use the monetization. So thanks as always for watching, and keep on building.